I've got nothing to say, check the description. From 0, 1 is the Scye depth plus 4 centimeters down. From 0 again, 2 is the waist height plus 3 centimeters, and 3 from 0 is the shirt length plus 8 centimeters. We want to square all of those way out. 4 from 1 is half the chest plus 12 centimeters. Square up for 5 intersecting with 0 and down for 6 intersecting with 3. From 0, 7 is a fifth of the neck minus half a centimeter out. 8 from 7 is 4.5 centimeters up. To draw on the neckline, mark a 2 centimeter pitch at 45 degrees from 7. From 0, 9 is a fifth of the measurement between 0 and 1 plus 2 centimeters. From 9 to 10, that's half the back plus 4 centimeters. Square down for 11 on the sideline and up to 12 intersecting with 0. 12 to 13 is 3/4 of a centimeter out. Join 13 and 8. From 10, 14 is into the pattern 10 centimeters, and from 10 again, 15 is 3/4 of a centimeter down. Join 14 and 15, and we'll be cutting this triangle out and joining the back and yoke along these lines. From 1, 16 is half the measurement from 1 to 4 plus half a centimeter. Square down to 17 and 18. From 5, 19 is down 4.5 centimeters. From 19 again, 20 is a fifth of the neck minus a centimeter into the pattern. And then from 19, 21 is a fifth of the neck minus 2.5 centimeters below it. Join 20 and 21 in a curve for the front neckline. From 10, 22 is a centimeter and a half down. Square this way out to receive point 23. The 20 to 23 measurement is the same as the 8 to 13 minus half a centimeter. From 1, 24 is a third of the chest plus 4.5 centimeters out. From 24, 25 is up 3 centimeters. Join 23 and 25. 26 is halfway between 25 and 23. Do a right-angled line out from 26 into the front pattern and mark a centimeter on there, which I'll mark as A. Mark 45-degree angles at 11 and 24 as well. Mark 3 centimeters on 11's 45-degree line, and 1 3/4 centimeters on 24's, which I'll label C and B respectively. To draw the armhole, catch through 23, A, 25, B, 16, C, and 15, and separately 13 and 10. "21 from 27 is a centimeter and a half out for the other half of the placket, giving us a 3 centimeter placket. Square all the way down. From 27, 28 is out another 6 centimeters for a simple lacket of placket, and you could square that all the way down, but realistically, I think it'd be easier just to give it some inlay and cut off what you don't use later. From 17, measure 2 centimeters either side for 29 and 30, and measure up 14 centimeters from 18 for 31. Then 32 and 33 is a centimeter either side of that. 34 is halfway between 6 and 18, and 35 is halfway between 3 and 18. From 34, 36 is up 4 centimeters, and square that to the front edge. Then join the side seams to the hem, and you can draw in the side seams. Now we just want to check the measurements at the waist and the seat to see whether we want to remove any more fabric. Taking away 3 centimeters for the side seam. We could remove it at the side seams or give the shirt a back dart. The dart starting halfway between 1 and 11, mirroring the same length below the waistline, and you choosing the amount to take out. i.e., I'm removing 5 centimeters from either side of the waist and 1 either side at the seat. We could quite easily lower where we split the back from the yoke, just be sure that they split the same way and that the line we put 23 on is at the same height. Having cut out the shirt, we'll make the pattern for the yoke, and keep in mind that we still need to know where the centre is. Lastly, measure around the armhole to make the sleeve, so I have 49.5 centimeters today. Start with 0 as the crown. Draw a right angle all the way down. Measure down the same measurement as 11 to 4, which must be easier if you don't forget to do it before you cut out the pattern, for 1, which should be similar to a quarter of the armhole measurement. 12.6-ish versus 12.375 it's quite close. For 2, measure down from 0 the length of your sleeve minus your cuff length, which for me is 7.5 centimeters, and then add 2.5 centimeters for seam allowance, so 68, plus a centimeter for leg. 3 is your elbow and halfway between 1 and 2. From 0, take half your armhole measurement, here 24.8-ish centimeters, and join that up to line 1. Do that on either side of the center line 2. The hind arm is 4 and the other 5. From both of these, measure down at right angles for the cuff for 6 and 7. Back at the armhole lines, divide the length by 4 and draw 3 equidistant points on each line. So between each of my points is around 62 millimeters. Then, from left to right, or from the bottom to the top, there's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. At 9, measure a centimetre at right angles out of the pattern. At 10, 2 centimetres. At 11, 1 centimetre out. And at 13, 1 centimetre into the pattern. Then we want to join those up as the armhole. That is a bit of a word salad, but it's quite easy when you see it. Draw the armhole roughly for now. We'll end up with a cleaner line as we cut it out. From 6 and 7, measure into the pattern a third of the measurement between those and 2, for points 14 and 15, giving me 71mm from each edge. Then, mark points halfway between them and their current arm seams for 16 and 17. Join 4 and 16 and join 5 and 17. From where the lines you drew intersect the elbow line, make a slightly curved line from there to 14 and 15 as appropriate. On the hind arm, mark halfway between 14 and 2. Make a line right angled up the sleeve 15 centimeters and another 1 centimeter out of the cuff. Join this up to the center line and 14. Cut it out along the interior lines we've drawn, and as we're cutting the armhole, if we let our scissors half direct us, if we don't pressure them to cut in a manner too forcefully, then we'll end up with a much more natural line. And gotta say, I was dreadfully surprised when my sleeve fit into my body first time with my trial shirt. It was practically to the millimeter. Start with a horizontal line, measure out the wrist measurement plus 2 centimeters for space, then another 2 for seam allowance, and 1.5 for our 1/4 decimeter sleeve placket. So a total of 5.5 centimeters. Measure the cuff depth plus 2 centimeters, so 7.5 plus 2, or for a double cuff maybe 15 plus 2. Square that across 2. Draw the centimeter seam allowances inside of the perimeter. Shape one corner into a bevel or a curve, or if you're making it double cuff for cufflinks, or nothing. Though nothing just looks plain and nigh ugly, I'd say. Cut out the pattern and fold it lengthways to get an identical curve or bevel on the other side. And that'll be our cuff pattern. Start with a vertical line and choose a point 1, making sure that you have at least 11 centimeters above it for a standard stand and fall. But I've never seen butchers stand that, so what do I know? From 1, 2 is half the neck minus 3/4 of a centimeter, or half the buttonhole measurement, which in my case is 15 millimeters. 3 from 2 is then across another 3.5 centimeters. Square up all of those. 4 from 1 is 3/4 of the measurement between 1 and 2. 1 to 5 is the stand and fall height, so 8 centimeters plus 2 centimeters seam allowance. Square that across. 6 is halfway between 1 and 5, square that across 2, creating 7 and 8. 9 from 8 is back 1 centimeter, and join 3 and 9. From 3, 10 is up the line 3/4 of a centimeter, and from 9, 11 is down the line 3/4 of a centimeter. From 1, 12 is up half a centimeter, and curve 12 into the bottom line of the collar. Join 4 and 10, and join 7 and 11. At this point, you design the shape of your collar. The most stock standard thing to do is to measure 1 centimeter at a 45-degree angle from the first line intersecting line 3, and then joining that to 0.7, and curve it into the top of the collar. Though for most collars we want something more interesting than that, otherwise your shirt is going to look cheap. We've all seen those really cheap looking shirts. You can see it from the consistency of the collar width. But again, there are all sorts of collar designs we can go for. 13 is halfway between 6 and 7. From 7, 14 is down a centimeter, and from 11, 15 is down half a centimeter again. Join 13, 14, and 15 in a curve. "16 is the tip of your collar, and join that to 14. At this point, we either need to cut these two out separately or trace over them. Either way, though, we need to remember to put the seam allowance back where we separated the standard fall, and we also need to transfer them onto new paper regardless to double them across the centre back, making sure that we still know where the centre back is. We'll label our patterns now and make a hole to hang them from. And it's gotten to the point where I've run out of string, so I kinda have to improvise, adapt, and overcome.